this morning, last week rather we finished Gideon's story and he died. Now we're going to look at rather odd characters, Jotham and Abimelech. We will study that for the whole day, and I'll do my best to finish the whole 2 chapters so that we can move on to the next characters next time we are here. Let me read to you Judges 8, verse 33. Judges 8:33. When Gideon died, the Israelites turned and prostituted themselves by worshiping the Baals and made Baal-berith their god. The Israelites did not remember the Lord, their God, who had rescued them from the hand of the enemies around them. The most recent context are the Midianites in the times of Gideon. They did not show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal or Gideon for all the good he has done for Israel. Now, that passage speaks volumes. When you are called by God, when the Lord tells you to do something, do not seek human flattery or human compliments or even gratitude. The righteous ones will be grateful. That's in the scriptures. The righteous one will give honor to whom it is due. But in general, after you have done all, those who are not of the faith will just continue to be ungrateful. Look at this. Gideon staked his life. And they did not do good. They did not show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, and we will know that later. Now, God used a very strong language of prostitution to describe Israel's unfaithfulness to Him. Now, this is, of course, a spiritual prostitution. What this means when God said that is they are now intentionally having relationship with forbidden gods or the idols. Meaning, God says, do not worship idols, and they do. By the way, because of the Roman Catholics in the, I think the late 70s or the early 80s, made an agreement with the Lutherans, the Anglicans, and the evangelical Christians. Because the divide is the just shall live by faith alone. Sola fides, one of the solas of the evangelical movement. Faith alone. The Catholics insisted before that it's faith plus works. Finally, in their meeting in, I think it's in Geneva, Switzerland, they agreed that they will remove that part. So now the Catholics' declaration of faith is we are saved by faith alone, like everybody else. That is the main cause of protests. That's why it's called Protestants. Okay, that's the main reason why there is a protest. So now the Catholics are saying, inasmuch as we have already removed plus works, but they defined faith as from James, but genuine faith produces works. They clarify that in that agreement. And so now they say, because we already agreed that the just shall live by faith, come home now. That's why you will see advertisements in the Catholic churches, come home. Ignorant Catholics thinks it's referring to Catholics who don't go to church. That's their ignorance. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know what's happening in history. Come home now is referring to non-Catholics, but calls themselves Christians. Because we have already removed that wall of faith plus works, come home now, be a Catholic again, because they call the Catholic Church the Mother Church. As a result, the Lutherans rejoined in fellowship the Roman Catholic Church. They're exchanging pulpits now. The Anglicans, the Episcopalians, of course, all of those things. And talks are going on with the Presbyterians. The Methodists are dancing well with the Catholics right now. Therefore, what we are seeing is the easing of relationships. That is very dangerous. So we have a lot of Catholics, Christians, maybe some of you are here, And I don't mind saying that because I'm supposed to tell you the truth. Maybe some of you are here, you're dancing with Roman Catholicism. You're not supposed to do that. Because the fact of the matter is they still didn't remove their idols. They still believe you can pay for your salvation. They still believe in purgatory. They still believe in a lot of pagan practices that are forbidden in the Scriptures. So just simply because they wrote something doesn't mean we ease up. But a lot of Christians are thinking it's okay now. No, it's not okay. That is the equivalent of religious prostitution. And the Lord is taking it seriously. Okay? By the way, even the Jews and the Muslims, they're trying to have a dialogue or a conversation with the Pope. A few months ago, a year ago, there was a very good meeting supposedly that took place between a very popular chief rabbi and a chief imam in Vatican, wherein they're trying to work out something. The only thing I can see on this level is the formation of a global religion. Because the beast, the Antichrist, will strengthen his hold on the global community because of a religious phase. It's called the false prophet. The unholy trinity is the unholy father, which is the dragon, who is Satan, the unholy Christ, which is the Antichrist, and the unholy Holy Spirit, which is the false church. That is what they are trying to accomplish. And my concern is a lot of Christians are easing up on these things. Now prior to that, if somebody tells me, hey, can you attend a celebration in this happening in our life, and it's going to be in a Catholic church, I have no problem before because of a distinction. But now that they try to gray it out, I have a big problem. A lot of invitations to me to that effect. Now, I'm still open to ministering to them as I have ministered in the past. But there is a doctrine in the Bible that is called spiritual prostitution. That is when you begin to worship along with those who worship other gods. That becomes extremely wrong, and the Bible uses the word prostitution. It is Israel worshiping other gods. Baal Berith, the word in Hebrew, Berith, is the word for covenant. Okay, so we are talking about God Baal of the covenant. Okay, and so what it seems to indicate is Israel entered into a covenant with Baal. It's like this. Martin Luther opposed a lot of the things that the Roman Catholics were doing. So did John Calvin and the early church fathers. They opposed them. The Roman Catholics kicked out Martin Luther. When the descendants begin to shake hands and write an agreement, that's entering into a covenant. And I told you this, I'm very open because of his popularity in the Philippines. When Eddie Villanueva, because of his political campaign, called Kibuloy kapatid sa langit. That is so wrong because the guy is not going to heaven, not even close. He believed he replaced Christ already. It's replacement theology. But for somebody with that stature to begin to proclaim publicly, and even in YouTube, that becomes dangerous. Now, I believe he is born again and all of those things. But this is the easing up. But in the Scriptures, there is no easing up on relationships with other gods. They did not remember the Lord who rescued them from their enemies. What this means is they refuse to give him credit. Okay? Again, a reminder to all of us. When we are walking with God and the Lord blessed us, do not forget who blessed you. Because some Christians forget it. After they have their jobs and their homes and their cars, they begin to say, well, I got this because I've got a good job. Really? You got a good job. That becomes wrong. Because we forget this. And so we don't give God credit anymore. Now, you have heard me say this. What I enjoy today is all from the Lord. Now, some people will say, well, because Pastor, you have this skill, you have this talent. Yeah, but I have had those for the longest time. I've been a hard worker since I was young. But I've never had these blessings in my life until I got born again and I begin to walk in the ways of God. And so I attribute, and even my marriage, my wife came from the Lord, even my kids, I recognize that these are the children that God has given me. And so I'm doing my best to give Him honor by raising them up in the fear of the Lord. Now, the moment you allow your kids to do whatever they want, you are not honoring the Lord, okay? You are not. Because the Lord will not allow you to do anything you want. These are the tweaking of the Christian truth that led to backsliding. And so, can you imagine refusing to say that it's the Lord who raised Gideon? It's the Lord who raised all of these heroes in the past to bring us deliverance. They begin to brag. Even the local heroes begin to brag. You know, I've heard, for example, among the athletes, the moment they testify, who is this? The Alabama quarterback who won them a championship, the one from Hawaii. I forgot his name. He's now playing, I think, for the Miami Dolphins. So they won the championship. He was placed in as a backup for another quarterback. And so they won. And so he was being interviewed. And he said this, oh, my dad will hate this, doesn't like this. But I give glory to Jesus Christ. His dad is a Christian. But his dad warned him, you're about to enter into $1 million contract in the NFL. Do not mess it up. Don't mention Jesus. That's what the dad says. Don't mention Jesus. And by the way, this is what we are being told, even by our parents. Hey, don't sound too religious. Don't mention Jesus too much. Well, this is not giving credit to whom it is due. The guy, I hope he doesn't change, because a lot of these athletes, after they join the professional league, they change their position. But he is very conscious. He said, all of this came from the Lord, giving God the glory. Brothers and sisters, do not be ungrateful to the Lord. The benefits that we are enjoying is from God. The moment you forget that becomes a very dangerous territory because you are walking away from the Lord. And you will no longer appreciate what the Lord has given to you. Now, I've observed this in human relationships. If I give her something, and she appreciates that, and then suddenly we have a falling out. You know, we are best friends before, and then we have a falling out. She will have the tendency to throw away or disregard what I have given her. I've noticed this when my wife is shopping, especially on direct buying, and my wife will say, why are you selling this? This is a very good merchandise. And they will say, oh, that's from my ex-husband. I know it's expensive, but I don't care. Who cares? Meaning there is now a disregard for what was given to her when the relationship is okay. And now that's what's happening. The moment you disregard the blessings that the Lord is giving to you, that is a sign of a walking away from Him. And so we have to always be grateful. They also did not show kindness to the house of Gideon, who was used by God to deliver them. Why? Because the moment they give credit to the false gods, here comes the 70 sons of Gideon. And they will say, well, my dad did that. My dad was used by God. And so that is always the reminder. And so they were not kind. Now, not all the sons of Gideon were okay. But nonetheless, they did not show kindness. You know, they did not show kindness. I have talked to my children several times, especially now that they are beginning to have work. I told them, hey, listen, one of these days I'm going to leave the U.S. or I'm going to die, I said. And I gave this speech first to Joseph. I said, remember those who help us along the process. Because you have to, and I tell them also, and remember those who betrayed us. Okay, that's Bible. Remember when David was dying? Now, listen to me. Some of your enemies will rise up against you and you will have nothing that you can do about it. And the Lord will not give you the liberty to do something about it. Because sometimes when you do something about it, you mess things up even more. Okay, so Joab and the other advisors of David turned their back on David and he would not touch them. The Lord did not put it in his heart. But then when David was dying, he was talking to Solomon. Solomon says, son, remember what happened in the past? Yes, Dad. I could not touch these people because of the kingdom. But he said this, now I'm going to the grave. Do not allow their heads to go down the grave in peace. That's what he said. Some of our enemies we will not be able to touch. But there will be some people after us who will have no problem touching them. Okay? So God doesn't ignore these things. And so sometimes we ease up on these things, but God does not. And so here, the children of Jerubbaal were included in the way they were going after Gideon and prostituting themselves against the enemies. Also protect your children this way. The devil will send people your way trying to win your children away from the Lord. These are not good people. You know, and the moment you're out of sight, they will not be kind to your kids. This is what we consistently see even in history, especially in terms of business or rankings. Well, your dad is dead. Nobody got your back now. And so they will go after your kids. That's why you have to raise your kids to be strong and to know how to stand on their own. Look, they did not show kindness at all. You look at all of that and you must ask, what is going on? Can anyone please learn something? Well, the fact is this. We don't learn anything. Some people say, experience is the best teacher. That's one of the most lousy statements I've heard. If experience is the best teacher, we should have been living in the Garden of Eden. Okay? And you should not have been repeating your mistakes. Obviously, experience is a bad teacher. Okay? Experience doing the Word of God will be the best teacher. When you take the Scriptures, obey it, then that will be a very good teacher. But experience alone, the fact that we keep repeating the same mistake, prove and is a solid proof that it's not really the best teacher. Okay, some people normally use that when they are uneducated to cover up for their lack of education. But that is not the case. Because again, if experience is the best teacher, then we should have been living in the Garden of Eden. Look at Afghanistan, the one that we prayed for earlier. Did they ever learn? Look at the history of Afghanistan. It has always been war-torn. But nobody learns. Just nobody. Nobody just learned. Have you ever heard of HIV and some STDs? Nobody learns. In fact, those who are very promiscuous, they just want to take medicines and they just want to prevent themselves from being contaminated with the sickness. So they use all kinds of contraceptives and, not because what they are learning is how to be better at sin. Okay? How to be better at sin. Can you imagine before when there are no contraceptives, when schools are not distributing, how do you call that? Contraceptive pills, women will be very careful. A lot of them fell also, but they will be very careful. Man, I can get pregnant. When there were no condoms, oh, they'll be very careful. But now that they're all available, they don't care. Yeah, they just don't care. Now, of course, we see physical signs of people who are engaged in active sexual activity, but they just don't care anymore. The world is just getting better at committing sin. And again, it's biblical proportion. In the last days, wickedness shall increase. And so when you look at that, after the fall, when will we ever learn? This is when we are introduced to Abimelech and Jotham. Jotham was not a judge, nor Abimelech. Abimelech was voted to become king of Shechem, okay, and one other place. This is the first democratic monarchy that he was voted in. There was a campaign that took place. So you can tell that part of Israel is now beginning to yearn for a king. Why is Israel yearning for a king? We are now moving to 2 Samuel. Why is Israel yearning for a king? Because the nations around them has kings. They have Baals, they have Baals too. They have the Asherah poles, they have the Asherah poles too. They have the Ashtoreths and Moloch and all of those, they have it too. So they begin to say, why can't we have these too? In as much as we are following them, let's follow everything. That is the way of the world. And so, here is a first sign. When they made Abimelech king, he's not really a judge. Jotham, I don't know what happened to him after he stood on Mount Gerizim and pronounced his famous fable. He disappeared. And what happened next to him, I don't know. Maybe he just went hiding. So let's start looking at the rise of this man by the name of Abimelech. Judges 9, verse 1. Okay, Judges 9, verse 1. Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem and spoke to his uncles and to his mother's whole clan, saying, please speak in the hearing of all the citizens of Shechem. So that's the politicking here. Is it better for you that 70 men, all the sons of Jerubbaal, rule over you, or that one man rule over you? Remember that I am your own flesh and blood. Oh, they appeal to kinship. His mother's relatives spoke all these words about him in the hearing of all the citizens of Shechem. And they were favorable to Abimelech, for they said, he is our brother. Now, I'll go to the end of chapter 9. They are now voting in a person who will kill them all. Simply because he is our brother. At the end, he'll kill them. Simply because he is our brother. Now, Gideon had 70 children. Why in the world would a man have 70 children? Do you know any mother with 70 children? We have a member here before. A few of you know him. I think his mom has something like 16 children. Yeah. Anybody here with relatives with 16 children? They get married at a very young age, and almost every year she is pregnant, and sometimes it's a twin. There's a lot of children. But no person, hindi naman baboy ito, di ba? There's not a single individual who will be able to give birth to 70 children. Which brings us to simple truth. He had many wives. Now, the Bible prohibits polygamy. But some of these people, supposedly they're used by God, they go into this. The moment you go into the ministry and you're a public figure, people's eyes will be on you. They have no choice. I mean, like you guys have no choice but to look at me. Why? I'm the only one standing up here and preaching, So, the anointing, as I taught before, is very fragrant. The anointing oil is the work of a perfumer. And so people will begin to admire you. I mean, as simple as worship leading or even playing guitar, some people go crazy in the secular world. What are you screaming about? Oh, I like that guitarist. The guitarist was very skinny, a drug addict, and is ready to die. Simply because he can hit some strings, you know. Because there is a certain attraction to these things, and we can misinterpret that. Now, some people will take advantage, wealthy individuals. Some wealthy people think that all the girls like them. No, they like your money. Your money smells like a perfume. And so they are not after you. I mean, if you have no money, nobody will look at you. So they just got trapped by this. Well, Gideon was one. He's got many wives, and not only does he has many wives, he had a concubine. In Judges 8, verse 30, Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, since he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. Now, listen. When he named him Abimelech, it's not only him. The honor was given to him, but actually, if you are a son of a child of a concubine in this era, if you're a legitimate child, your mom is a wife, then you are a child of Gideon. But if you are a child of a concubine, you belong to the mother, not to the father. Okay? That's why children of concubines in this era are not being given anything. You belong to the mother and the tribe. That's why the Shechemites have affinity with him, because Abimelech belongs to him. And I'll guarantee you, the naming of Abimelech was most probably from the mother. Okay? Because he is the mother's son. And the father will declare it. Probably will ask the mother, what do you want for a name? Well, I want Abimelech. Now that is very significant, and I'll show you later. So we know how immature Gideon was when the Lord called him. That's why in the scriptures, leadership belongs to the mature, because you may not be able to take the accolades, you know. Now we're training young people, especially in all parts of ministries, teaching, worship leading. And you will notice that when we train young people, they are always under supervision because their heads can grow big. Yeah. Their heads can grow big because, look, you have some people leading worship. Where are the congregation looking at? The worship leaders. And so you can see all eyes are on you. According to Bob Swords, you may begin to think they are worshiping you. And so if you don't have the maturity, you may take what belongs to God and claim it's your own. The first person to do that was Satan. Because he was full of wisdom and he was exquisitely beautiful. Satan was not only a piano player, they say he has built-in piano. He's not only a guitar player, he has built-in guitar. And so some people say that he is probably the worship leader in heaven. And so you are a leader among these angelic beings, and you begin to think that they are looking at you. That is a temptation. Among preachers, some preachers are bad at this now. A lot of churches, during worship time, they don't join the congregation anymore. They hold themselves in a hole. They're in a room. I know, because that's what they try to do to me all the time. There's a church in the Philippines that whenever I speak there, I'm there before most of the congregations are there. I'll be there 30 minutes before the service, and not even all the musicians are there. And one time, the first time, the secretary of the pastor saw me and said, Pastor Jose, you should not be here. Be at the office of our pastor. He's not here yet, but stay in the office. And I said, no, nobody's here. I said, yeah, I'm preparing myself. I'm going to be speaking later. I said, I'm preparing myself for the service, so just leave me alone, you know. And essentially, she left me alone. And after that, they don't bother me anymore. But every time I preach there, I'll go up there, and I'll be there ahead of time. Almost nobody is there. And then the pastors will just walk in after the worship is done. And they begin to think that they are the finale. Okay? After everything is done. In fact, some pastors are so bad, after the worship is done, and you know, most of these pastors don't participate in worship. So they stand up and they don't feel inspiration, so they tell the congregation, let's stand up. And they begin to lead their own worship service. Let's sing this song. Because they don't feel it. Well, because you're not there. You see? And that is a very big temptation. That's why maturity is required. Now, in this regard, the Lord has to choose somebody to deliver Israel. And sometimes it happens. And if the word is no longer being taught, immaturity is going to be there. So, he had a very weak soul. What is one of the signs of a weak soul? Gideon has this insatiable or uncontrollable appetite for women. Anybody else that you know with that weakness? David? Oh, Solomon is worse. You know, the wisest idiot in the Bible is Solomon. So, can you imagine this? And so, he has this insatiable appetite for women. One result, which is not obvious in the text, is its negative effect on a concubine's son named Abimelech. Now, I have 5 children. And anybody here with 5 children? About to have 5 children. Where is Erwin? Erwin, I think, is about to have 5. It's not yet. Anybody here with 4 children? Okay. What about 3? That's good. Oh, the number is increasing. What's wrong with you guys, huh? How many of you here have only 2? Okay. How many have only 1? Now, you see what I'm saying? Those of you with only 1, and I will not look, cannot even discipline your kids. What about 70? You have no more time. I mean, you don't even know. Do you think Gideon knows the name of their wives? Of his wives? Number 2. You know. But here, how are you going to support? I think one of the wisdom of the Lord in saying, cleave unto your wife is, really, you cannot supervise your kids. Now, I'm by the blessings of the Lord, I was able to supervise my kids. But I supervise my kids with my wife. You know, the follow-up even today. Even say with my firstborn, we are with him on the phone multiple times a year. Multiple times a day, I'm sorry. Multiple times a day. And that's just with me and my wife. Added to that, he spends time on the phone with my kids. By the way, your iPhone or whatever phone you have, it has the video capability. You know. And the amazing thing is, Joseph sometimes will say, you have a celebration there. What are you having for dinner, Mama? And if John says, I'm cooking steak, Joseph will say, I'll prepare steak too. So we'll eat together. Yeah. Joined by the internet, separated by distance. But the accountability is there. That's 5 kids. Okay? That's why some of you with less than 5 kids, you have no excuse really why you cannot discipline your kids. Because I have 5. Okay? And I have disciplined my kids with a biblical discipline that is more Filipino than anything else. You know, so. But with 70 kids, by the way, DJ accuses me that my favorite child is Joseph. Yeah. My boys accuses me that my favorite child is DJ. You know. Joel claims we are the same. So, even among these 5 lousy number, I wish I have 12, you know, looking back to it, there is wrangling among the kids. Who is the favorite? What is it called? Competition. And vying for parental attention. And they fight as to who sits on my right and who sits on my left. That's why I know they're probably going to the ministry. One is James, one is John, you know. But Joel is very happy when DJ went to Virginia Beach because he can sit beside me. And even, you see, this is competition with 70. You know the kind of competition there is in that house? They are ready to kill each other. You say, no, that's too much. That's what they did to Joseph. With 70. Okay, so now you made your family a breeding ground for a potential war. The worst war is not war against nations. The worst war is war within the family. By the way, if you study monarchies, wars had been waged because royal brothers are at each other's throat. So they send their soldiers to kill each other while they stay safe. Okay? And so a lot of wars had been started because of family relationship. Disciplining 70 kids becomes an impossible task. You cannot pass the fear of God when you have many wives. Yeah. Like my father cannot teach me do not smoke or do not drink because he was a smoker and a drinker. You cannot pass the fear of God if you have many wives. Impossible. Because any child with a little bit of brain, if only one brain cell is functioning, you will not look at that person as an example. Why? Because why will you teach me the fear of God? You have no fear of God. You see? So the kids, especially Abimelech have no fear of God at all. Can you imagine at the end he killed 70 of his brothers? 70 of his brothers. Put them in one stone. Chop, chop, chop. Yeah, 70. Blood flowing from one stone. 70. That's demon-possessed man right there. You see? But this is what can happen. You need to overcome that, of course, and get rid of it. You must denounce that it is something from the devil and not from God. Otherwise, according to the words of God to Cain, sin is always crouching at the door. If you don't think something is wrong, you will keep doing it. Okay? You will just keep doing it. All the warnings are there, but a weak vessel will continue in his deadly path. That's what Gideon did. Okay, used by God in one occasion. Throw out the Midianites. Not because you are used by God in one area means that you are good. It doesn't mean that you are good in all areas. Okay, now, God called me to be a teacher. I can teach. Now, I have led worship in the past. I can play a little bit of guitar. But I'm not a musician. I know my limits. Okay, unless it's needed, I will not lead worship because that is not my giftedness. Now, I can teach. But there are other ministerial tasks that I cannot do also. I mean, I look at some pastors. I look at Pastor Kenza, my friend. Some of the things that he does, I look in admiration. He's got these skills with people that are just remarkably great. I don't have that skill. Okay? And so you recognize not because you are good in one thing means you are good in all things. And that is where it will put humility in your heart, and you will not you will not bloat out. Now, what does Abimelech mean? Let's go to that. Abimelech means father is king. Abi, my father. Melech, Malek, king. Abimelech, my father is king. Who is his father? Is Gideon a king? No, they want him to rule. And what did Gideon says? No, not me, not my sons. And he went back home. Okay? And he went back home. After making a mistake in asking for gold, and he made an ephod, which only belongs to the high priest. Okay? We discussed it last week. Even then, Gideon was wrong, but he said, no, I was a soldier. I delivered you from Midian. That's it. Rule over us. No, not my sons. His firstborn, he's got a young son. The name is Jether. Remember when they caught, I forgot his name, Siba and Salmuna, and he said, kill them. And the boy Jether said, no. He doesn't have the heart. He cannot be a good leader. If you cannot walk your enemies, you cannot be a good leader, especially ruling as a judge. You need to be able to have a strong heart and say, this is the right thing to do. And I'll do it. And they'll call you a tyrant, they'll call you this, but you've got to do it. Jether doesn't have that. So he looked at his son and says, no, not me, not my sons. He was specifically looking at Jether. Not my sons. Now this is what I would like to see. You must recognize your family, what they have. Okay? Now, we parents will love our kids, presumably. And so we try to build their confidence. But as a parent, you need to know the limitations of your children. By the way, when one day we were having breakfast, I have a brother who's the only brother that I have who repeated first grade. It robbed him of some of his confidence. And he repeated first grade simply because he had an accident. He got an injury and he could not go to school for, I think, a couple of months. And so he was way far behind. And so he has to repeat first grade, I think, or third grade, I forgot. But he's a little bit low on confidence. Well, one day we were having breakfast, and I have had talk with that brother of mine, and he told me he wants to be a soldier. He did not become a soldier, okay? But when he was young, he told me that. And so we were having breakfast, and my mother was chiding my youngest brother. And said, why don't you be like your Kuya Jose? He finished college, he's doing this, doing that. And I stopped my mother. I said, Nay, stop. I said, stop. I said, it's wrong for you to compare my brother with me. I said, number one, he's not a pastor. I said, number two, I said this, he wants to be a soldier. I said, if he wants to be a soldier, what he needs to learn is how to shoot and how to fight. If he wants to be a soldier, he needs to learn how to shoot and how to fight, how to defend himself, and how to attack. He doesn't need to learn how to read so many books. I mean, what, you're in battle? Where did I learn this? What page is that, you know? And here comes the flying bullets. No, you've got to have the heart. And I stopped my mother from criticizing my young brother in comparing him with me, because I think it's very unfair, it's very wrong. But sometimes parents do that. They compare one child over the other and favor one over the other. It's one of the worst way of raising your kids. Also, recognize the strength and the weakness of your kids. Don't push them into something that is not in their heart. Look, Joseph told me when he was young, I'm going to be a billionaire. I was very happy. Can you imagine a billionaire? How much is the tithe of a billion? I'm going to change my doctrine, you know. The tithe of a billion is how much? You see, you're having difficulty. 100 million is the tithe of a billion. And so I was very happy. He said, Papa, I'm not only going to buy you first-class tickets, because during the time in my travels, I was really having difficulty with my back. He said, I'm going to buy an airline, he said, and there will be a seat in front, and it will say, father of the owner of this airline. You know? Can you imagine the kind of ambition that my son has? I keep saying, amen, you know. You don't discourage that. Well, he ended up taking mechanical engineering. I thought he will be a businessman. After he took up mechanical engineering, I said, well, an engineer will be good, because Lee Iacocca was a mechanical engineer, turned out to be a salesman, and then a CEO for Chrysler. I said, so there's still hope. He joined the Air Force. Of all things, but do you know that ambition never left him? But I never stopped him in any of that. Okay? Never stopped him on any of that. And so, my kids begin to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. I remember, I think my wife was very angry with John and Joseph, or both, or one of them. And Joseph just humbly said, Mama, I'm not John. You know, he said, John can flip a book and perfect a test. He said, I'm not like that. Oh, but Joseph is a hard worker. Now, John is a hard worker too, but Joseph is a hard worker. Okay, when he was in elementary, he was already helping me in construction. And there will be times he will have plenty of homework. He will look at me and he will say, Papa, do you need to, oh no, Joseph, do your homework. He will look at that and say, but Papa needs help. So he will rush his homework. And you know, when somebody rushes homework, that means it's wrong. And he will work with me until 12 midnight. And so when he says he slept through school, that is literal. He literally slept through school. There are complaints from but he was helping me a lot. That's Joseph. But different skill sets. Recognize that from your kids. And do not put your child, push them in a position that they cannot handle. Okay, don't do that. Do not do that. They will suffer. When Joseph come of age, I said, hey, Joseph, the Lord had blessed us. It's time for you to serve God, I said. Time for you to serve the Lord. So what do you want? You want to become a janitor? You want to become a cleaner? You want to be this? And he said, oh yeah, I can clean. He likes that. But then he said this, I like to learn drums. I said, okay. And that's when Hansel began to teach him how to play drums. But I did not walk in and say, hey, Hansel, that's my boy right there. Let him play tomorrow. You know, I let it take its course. Let him be trained. I mean, no shortcuts. Because you begin to train your children to do shortcuts, you are cutting their legs. You know, you are cutting their legs. You've got to show them the ropes, that this is what life is. You know, sometimes you will be treated well, sometimes you will not be treated well. I did not cuddle them and baby them. I remember Joel is helping me now, and the other week, oh boy, it was very hot. He was very excited. Papa, I'll help you. The first day, he was really very serious, and I look at my son, because man, his cheeks turn red under the heat of the sun. And James looked at me and says, Papa, don't push Joel, okay? He looks like he's dying. And so I told Joel, you go rest, get some water, hydrate yourself. And then he came out of my garage after drinking, and he was just walking like this, you know. So I said, Joel, go inside the house now, okay? Go inside the house and rest. This is your first day at work. And he was happy. Well, the following day he came out again, excited. Same thing happened. I said, Joel, no more of yesterday. Come back here to work. You're not going to die, okay? Was going like this. You don't baby him. Yeah, he's my baby, but you don't baby him. Because that's what life is. Yeah. And Gideon knew that. And so he did not set his kids to fail. He doesn't perhaps see leadership qualities. Jether was weak. He cannot be a judge. He can't be a king either. And so he refused that. Okay? Now, we can argue all day long about what are the pros and cons of that, but that's not our topic for today. Now, if Gideon named the child Abimelech, that means he's got another weakness. At the back of his mind, he think of himself as king. I'm king over this place. You know, sometimes we play false humility. Oh, you're good in singing. Oh, not really. But they want you to repeat that. False humility. It could be that at the back of his mind, I am really king of this place. But because of history, I think that's not the case. It's the concubine. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's the people around you. I'll tell you this. We were in Lowell. And this is what drove me to buy our second car. Because service will be starting and I don't come on time. I'll always come way ahead of time. And so I was pushing my wife. And let's rush. By the way, if you tell my wife it's 5 o'clock, she'll try to make it 5:30, okay? So I said, and let's rush. And she said, why are you in a hurry? She said, every time we go to church, nobody is there. I said, I'm not going there because somebody is there. I said, that's my practice. I don't like I don't like people to wait for me. I don't like being late. And we were fighting all the time. And one day she told me this. She said, don't go there right away. You are the pastor, she said. They can wait for you. I said, no. I am the pastor. Therefore, nobody should wait for me. It's a different mindset. I said, I am the pastor. Therefore, nobody should wait for me. And that's when we bought the second car. You know. Now, look, that is a sweet whisper from my wife. It will make your ego bloat. But I wasn't born yesterday. I've suffered from flattery in the past already. So I am not the new kid on the block. And so I rebuked my wife for it. One day, Joseph and John were playing here. And they came to my office, and one of the former members of this church, the kids told Joseph, hey, Joseph, you can do anything in this church. Your dad is the pastor. And he told me that in my office. I look at my boy and says, try it! I said, no, Papa, no. You see, other people will try to flatter you and make you think of yourself more highly than you ought. That's why I said, I'm pastoring here, not my wife. Because it will be unfair for my wife, because she doesn't have my training. It will be unfair for my kids. They don't have my training, and then they don't have my experience. And so you have to put them in their right place. Some of our parents say, you don't treat your kids well. They act like bosses when they don't even have a job. They can't even pay for their meal. My goodness, they'll go to McDonald's and ask you for money. And you allow them to behave like kings. That is so wrong. Raise servants in your house. Do not raise bosses. I keep saying that. Raise servants. Did you hear me? Raise servants. The other day, Joel was very tired, so I asked Joel, hey, Joel, you want to work with Papa today? And he said, do I have to? I said, you don't have to. But I said, do you want to work with Papa today? And Joel, being tired from previous day, says, no, I'll stay home today. And I look at Joseph and I says, I don't really care what you think. You're working with me today. Then why did you ask me? I'm just trying to see what's in your heart. I said, you're working with me today. And he did work with me that day. You think he has a choice? No, you live in my house, you eat my food, you enjoy my internet. You will do your part. I am not raising bosses. I'm raising servants. And this is one of the major mistakes that we make. This is a weak soul. Gideon might have refused kingship, but they did not let go of this in their mind. They keep entertaining his flattery. My father is king. My father is king. For goodness sake, the other son's name is Jeter. The New York Yankees was not Was not formed during that time, but his name is Jeter, you know. But look at this. He considered himself child of a king. So what are you putting in his brain? I'm going to be king one day. I'm going to be. His concubine's son. They are not even considered in the post unless everybody dies. Okay? So Abimelech was living in a dream world. He grew up thinking that his father is king, although he is not. Talk about ego. His mother did not correct it. Why? Because the mother is the one supervising it all the time. We need, I like this Huxtable show before, Cosby show. You know, Theo, the son, he came from school and told his dad, Dr. Huxtable, Dad, he said, you know, I pity my classmates because they are very poor. They are not like us. We are rich. And Dr. Huxtable looked at his son and says, Theo, I am rich. You are poor. He said, you have nothing, son. I am the doctor. I have the money. I buy the things. You don't. So you're just like your classmates. As poor as your classmates. I am the rich one here. Put him in his place. You see? And I think that's one of the most basic mistakes that parents make in raising their kids. We don't put our kids in their place. Okay? So I told you a couple of weeks ago, DJ told me, we went on the beach, you know, and I told her, call me when nobody is listening. I said, who gave you permission to go to the beach without my knowledge? Well, I said, no, who told you? She is my daughter. You don't make decisions like that. I know Virginia Beach. I lived there for 3 years. I know what kind of people go to the beach there. I'm not ignorant of that. Okay? So don't tell me you know the place. I know the place. You don't. Now, she's already 21 years old. Do I love her? Of course. But she is my daughter, and so I have to be protective of her. And this is what I'm saying. You need to instill that in your kids. So after Gideon died, Abimelech's ambition can no longer be held under check. Weak or strong, listen to me, weak or strong, one of these days, you will expire. Whether I'm a weak father or I'm a strong father, one of these days, I will expire. If Jesus tarry, I will expire. I don't care how much my wife says, I want to go ahead of you. If it's my time, I'm going. If Jesus talks to me right now and say, hey, do you want to go home now? My answer is yes, Lord. Yeah. The moment, if Jesus tarry, one of these days, I will expire. And knowing and considering my mortality, I have to prepare my family after me. I have to prepare my family after me. You know, John told me, Papa, I'm considering to take my master's in Israel. My answer to John immediately is, yes. Now, there's ministry here, of course. And he's very concerned about the ministry. Well, my answer is yes. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but my answer is yes. Why? Because I wasn't prepared the way I'm trying to prepare John. I want him to have all the breaks, because when the time comes for him to get married, I don't know what kind of wife he's going to have. You know, I don't know what kind of passion for ministry the wife is going to have. I don't know these things. I don't know how the people will treat my boy. I've got to prepare him. He's got some qualities that are very strong, and he's got some qualities that are very weak. So I've got to prepare him, because one of these days, I will expire. And when I expire, they will be on their own. Okay? They will be on their own. Some parents don't realize that you will expire. And Gideon expired. And when he expired, the ambition of Abimelech can no longer be held. My goodness. If you do not do it right, your generation after you may suffer for your mistakes. The death of Gideon became an occasion for Abimelech to launch his campaign to become king or ruler, at least at Shechem, where his mother was from. So he issued, I want you to evaluate what Abimelech put in the mouth of his kinsfolks, and the news that he spread to the citizens of Shechem. Because Abimelech issued a false challenge. He created a scenario that is not there. Now, remember when Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House, and, well, before he became Speaker of the House, and there was this massive campaign regarding the Affordable Care Act. A lot of people voted for lies. Can you imagine this? One of the ads that the Democrats put is this, that they're I think Romney is, or somebody pushing the grandmother on the cliff to die. That is a lie. None of these politicians, Democrats and Republicans, will push any grandmother on the cliff. But you know that is repeated all the time. They're going to kill your babies. By the way, some conservatives do that. They look at the Democrats, they're going to kill your babies. No, not all Democrats will do that. But we created a scenario. Oh, what about this? Let's attack Iraq. Why? Weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. They did found some. Where? That's a false scenario. The world went to war on the basis of wrong information. This is an old demonic case. And by the way, when we pair each other against each other, we create false scenarios. Yeah, we create false scenarios. Hey, don't go to that church, you're going to go crazy. Don't go to that church. All that pastors say talk about is money. Well, if you are coming to this church, is that all I talk about? I mean, compare the content of what I'm teaching with other churches. But that is called false scenario. And that is what politics does. You keep selling wrong information. And so he started this false narrative campaign. And he used his kinsmen to speak for him to the citizens of Shechem. He even made it sound like, well, he said, which is better? For you to deal with 70 sons or with one? You know, the implication is this, that the 70 sons of Gideon all have an ambition to rule. Not only do they have an ambition to rule, they want to rule equally, that the mantle of Gideon will fall on all of them. Can you imagine having 70 kings? By the way, what happened to Jotham, as I said earlier? Even after Abimelech is killed, you will read no more about Jotham. After he stood on Mount Gerizim, is this what you did with my father's house? He fled. He was so scared for his life, just disappeared. Never led a revolution, never led a squad, don't have an assassination team, nothing. And this guy created a scenario that the 70 sons of Gideon will take the reign. They don't want to be rulers. They don't want to be kings. Because none of the 70 sons of Gideon has this kind of evil intention that Abimelech says he has. Therefore, they are totally unprepared. Wow. Look at the fear. 70 kings? That is so bad. We might as well just have one. I mean, it's a wise decision. But the scenario is wrong. Plus, the idea is the authority of Gideon will descend on all 70. By this, he made the citizens of Shechem believe that Gideon built a kingdom for himself. You know what happened in chapter 8? After Gideon built an ephod, what did Gideon do? He went home and went farming. He just went, some people are like, they just want to go home. He went home. That's it. Went back to farming. Now he's no longer threshing wheat on the wine press, but on the wheat press, the threshing floor. But he doesn't have that ambition. And so all of these are false scenario. Whatever the citizens believe, they made a decision on. They voted on the wrong thing. By the way, did you guys seen the gas prices lately? At one time, it almost hit, I think, $5. Yeah. Before it was hitting $3 plus, almost went below $3. Now it's $5 sometimes. Yeah. So there was a referendum made in the last election, whether on certain areas we're going to raise our taxes, right? What is the referendum? A false scenario. It's the politicians in Springfield lying to us. They put forth this saying, we want your decision. We'll put this on the referendum, whether we will going to have tax hike on these areas. The lying politician says, we value your opinion, we will follow what you want. So what did the people of Illinois did? Voted it overwhelmingly down. What happened next? They begin to be creative on how to still raise the taxes. And they did. Therefore, the referendum was a false scenario, making the people think that their opinion counts. We don't count. And so we have one of the highest property taxes in the world, some of the highest in everything. The gas tax. I mean, the cigarette tax here, I think, is over 200%, something like that. You know, not that it matters to me. But, whoa, referendum. For what? They spend tons of money on that referendum. It's a show. It is a show. Okay? And a lot of people are like that. This is a creation of a problem that is not existent. Germany was having economic woe. Okay? Why? Because of First World War. They lost. And after the loss, there has to be war reparation. And they were not able to pay it yet, you know. And economic problem. The chancellor during that time was an elite general in their armed forces, so he can't be replaced. He's old and dying. Well, there is this corporal in the German army named Adolf Hitler. He needs to create a scenario. Who is to be blamed? He said this: the Jews. So they call it the final solution. He called it the final solution. Convince Germany that the Jews are the problem. The Jews are the ones making money. The Jews are the ones who are hardworking. The Jews are the ones who are doing this, doing that. The problem. He created a problem that is not existing. And the world bought it. Now, question. What is it that you are very afraid of? Who sold you that? Yeah. Who sold you that? Who are you buying from? You see, there are only two sources of information, good and bad. Who are you buying your information from? Yeah. We need to start looking at this, because otherwise we will be like the citizens of Shechem. We keep buying false informations. So the citizens were favorable to the idea. They don't like 70 kings. He said, he is our brother. He's a half Canaanite. Again, Shechem is the mother of Abimelech. It's her hometown. Gideon is from Oprah. Gideon's concubine lived in Shechem. Again, as I said, this will make Abimelech belonging to his mother, not the father's. Oh, he is their own flesh and blood. Can you imagine? Why are you promoting this person? He is my son. Or he is my brother. That's the only qualification. Well, he is my son. He is my brother. That's the only qualification. I'll tell you a big multinational company in the Philippines. The CEO, the head of I will not tell you the corporation, it's global, but one of the top workers there is a friend of mine. And he told me the story. He said it's a food corporation. The guy got born again. Okay? Well, the moment the guy got born again, he was very friendly to Christians. One big church will say, we are having fundraising. Can you please help us sell these tickets? And the guy will say, how much is the ticket? The sponsor, this will be around 20,000 pesos worth of tickets. And this super millionaire will say, give me that. And he will pay for everything. And he is using the company's money to fund all of this. Well, the children, the siblings said, you are the chairman of the board, don't do this. You need to have our consent. Because he is giving to Christians. I went there one time to speak before I found out about this, and this is when I was being consulted what to do. The company gave me the biggest love offering I've got at that point. I mean, during the time I'll be receiving 500 pesos, 200 pesos offerings in the Philippines, but they gave me a couple of thousand. I said, whoa, this is a lot of money in the time. It's a lot of money for one speaking engagement, 30-minute speech. I said, it's a lot of money. And it turned out it's coming from the funds. And so now they begin to tell me, Pastor say, is this right? We have all kinds of pastors and they're getting money. I said, that is wrong. I said, what? I said, that is wrong. I said, if he doesn't stop this, he can be voted out. Guess what happened? He was voted out. He was removed from being the chairman of the board. He was not given a big... Why? Because not because you're a brother, it means you can make the right decisions. If blood is the only qualifications, that is weak. Okay? And this is the only basis that Abimelech did. So they bought in a wrong information. One may ask that aside from what we already know, that is what we have just discussed, is there any other reason why the people of Shechem acted like this? The answer is yes. And this is where we get into history. When was the first time we heard of Shechem in the Bible? Anybody can guess? Huh? What? Abraham's what? Okay, anybody else? Jacob. What about Jacob? The Shechemites deceived the Israelites. I think it's the other way around. The sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, deceived Shechem, right? What did Shechem do? Raped Dinah. Remember that? And so what did Simeon and Levi do? Kill them all. This is vengeance. You don't forget some... Way back in the times of Jacob, you don't forget something like they did not forget. We cannot really trust these Israelis. Remember the history of Shechem and remember Simeon and Levi? They pretended they're going to give Dinah, their sister, into marriage, but require us to be circumcised. And on the third day, and those of you who knows what circumcision is, in America they circumcise kids here. Wow, in countries like that, they're circumcised adults. You know what happened on the third day? You can't walk. You go like this. And that is when Simeon and Levi attacked and killed all the men. They never forget. It will haunt you. People think the sins of the past, God forgives. Yes, but the people don't. The people don't. And if there is a vindictive blood, it will come out. It will come out. You know what they say, why Hitler was like that to the Jews? A descendant of Agag. During the time of Saul and Samuel. Multiple generations ago. The blood feud still remains. That's why it is important for us, as children raising our families, we better do the right thing. Abimelech is a result of a series of bad decisions. So what happened now? They made him king. What did he do? One of the first acts that he did after he made him king, lined up the 70 sons in one rock. You know how brutal that was? That means the order that he gave was this: don't just kill them, capture them. Capture them. Now, during the time, I don't know where Jotham is. Obviously, Jotham was not in Shechem or not anywhere else. Maybe he was on vacation or something. Because he was told what happened. That's what the Bible says. He was not there. And he was a young boy. And so they gathered all the 70, and Abimelech counted all of them. Maybe he's got bad schooling, so he forgot that there is another. Maybe he thought, well, it's only 69, you know. Jotham was not there. Or maybe there are 71 kids, and he did not consider Jotham. So what happened now? Instead of saying, kill them, which is a normal course, he said, bring them all here. And he gathered the 70 sons, and there is one big stone there, which is an act of devotion to their God. And chopped their head one at a time. Some of the legends that came out of it, a flood of blood came out from the rock. You are a sibling. You watch your 70 brothers die. Okay? You know, sometimes when you are being enticed by your relatives to do evil, they say they love you. This is what relatives can do. Cain can kill an Abel, and Abimelech can slaughter 70 of his blood. This is beyond imagination. That's why we need to learn how to raise our kids properly in the fear of the Lord. Otherwise, this will happen. And this is why we have to really be very strong. You know, the main theme of this series is the repairing of the broken soul. The fall had damaged our soul so much. We are looking at the right decisions. We keep not making them. We are looking at the wrong decisions. We keep making them. And the problem is, I thought so. You know, sabi ko na nga ba eh. Pastor said, that is what I want to do. Sabi ko na nga ba? Why did you not do it? Ewan ko nga ba? Sabi ko na nga ba? Ewan ko nga ba? That's a weak soul right there. A strong soul, a person with a renewed mind, that's the right decision. I'm making it. Well, there are difficulties. I know, but that's the right decision. Why? Because you think. Can you imagine this guy who was very weak, intimidated, insecure? But the moment a woman shows up, that's his weakness. He goes after women. Result, 70 sons and Abimelech. You see, you do not know what can happen afterwards. Now remember, we will look at our politics today. My goodness, those politicians out there that are making bad decisions, they will die. But the decisions they are making has generational repercussions. And we keep ignoring it. Very short. We are very nearsighted. Start being farsighted. Look beyond our lives now. You know why I'm pushing to pay off this building. You know, we made a mistake in calculation because the interest rate of the refinance is still around 81,000 in debt. You know why I'm pushing to get this? And we can pay it, really. You know why I'm pushing that? Because I don't want to transfer financial responsibilities to the next leadership. Can you imagine to be slapped with, well, we have $2 million debt, you know? And I'll give this advice to you guys. You know, you guys, you should refinance when you can refinance. But be careful when you refinance. Make sure you don't borrow money that will increase your debt. Because you may be passing obligations, not inheritance, to your children. Yeah. Well, I'm going to pass this house to my kid. Maybe not a house. Maybe a load of debt. We have to be very careful with that. Whatever decisions we are making right now, it will affect the next year. If we want our next generation to be well, we make the preparations today. Because one day, you and I, we will expire. We will expire. And so after we expire, our kids will stand up on their own. One day, DJ will stand up on their own and she will be making decisions. I hope she consults her kuya and the other siblings, but she'll be making decisions without me. One day, but not today, okay? One day. One day, there will be nobody that Joseph will call, or John, or any of them. Because we will expire. So we prepare for them. Now, young people, one of these days, your parents will expire. You better do right now. Because if you don't build your bones, when they expire and you are not ready, you're stuck. And that is what faith is. Faith prepares for the future. And this is how we improve our lives. Amen? Well, it's 12:30. We'll continue tonight. Learn something this morning? Praise God.